Welcome back for today's college basketball pick video play, and if you're interested in getting all of our college basketball picks for today's action, you can check those out over at stumpthespread.com, which is linked right at the top of the video description. In this one, going to be talking about this Big Ten matchup here for Sunday's action, January 12th, 2020, between the Michigan State Spartans, who are going on the road taking on the Purdue Boilermakers, and Michigan State coming in favored by about 3.5 points in what figures to be a competitive matchup. Now, there's really not much debate that Michigan State has had the better overall season in contrast to Purdue up to this point, and Michigan State came into the season with a bit higher expectations than Purdue, but Michigan State, although they haven't lived up to that #1 ranking that they had coming into the year, still relatively respectable at 13-3 overall, and they currently stand atop the Big Ten at 5-0. While Purdue, they came into the season ranked, but they haven't been able to live up to those expectations. We actually felt like Purdue was a little bit overvalued coming into the season because with Carson Edwards no longer on this roster, we felt like it was just going to be a tough situation for them to be as consistently strong on the offensive side of the ball, but there's still a Purdue team that has the kind of talent where they could make a run at the NCAA tournament. They've just been less consistent than you'd like to see. Now, back to the road squad, Michigan State, they've been consistently handling their business in Big Ten play, but actually of their 5 conference wins, 4 of them have been at home, 1 on the road, and that was a competitive win at Northwestern, who is one of the lower tier teams in the Big Ten this season. So Michigan State, they haven't played in a lot of true road tests. They are 2-0 in those true road tests, but they were competitive. They won at Seton Hall, which was a nice result there for the Spartans, but Seton Hall wasn't at full strength in that one. And then, of course, that 77-72 victory over Northwestern. Now, over this past week, we really like what the Spartans have shown. Back-to-back home wins against Michigan as well as Minnesota, both of them by double digits. And it feels like Michigan State is trending in a positive direction with how they've been absolutely obliterating their opponents over the past handful of weeks. But now we get to see if the Spartans can carry that over into a tough, true road setting. So Purdue, they're at 9-7 overall. They have some nice resume wins along the way, but more or less the Boilermakers have been coming up short in these tougher tests over this past week. Purdue, back-to-back losses in very competitive games, or at least their last one was very competitive. The one before that was kind of a head-scratcher. So Purdue was actually able to push Michigan into overtime, but then they came up short in the extra period, losing by a final of 78-84. That was a really tough loss for this Purdue squad, and we'll see where they're at in terms of their mental capacity coming into this one. It can be kind of tough to bounce back after taking a tough loss like they did in Ann Arbor. But then the one prior to that was one that was a really poor result there for Purdue, losing at Illinois, only putting up 37 points, losing that one by a final of 37-63. And this is just a Purdue team that's been very up and down this season. They've shown the ability to compete with strong opposition, but then they've also had some stinkers along the way, like their 14-point loss at Nebraska, as well as that really poor result the other day against Illinois. We'll see what Purdue shows up in this one, but this is also a Purdue team that's shown that they can be beaten on their home court. They lost to Texas at home, as well as Florida State was able to come in and beat Purdue in that setting. So this isn't necessarily a team that, although they do have a very strong home court advantage, doesn't always capitalize on those scenarios. And with how well Michigan State has been playing as of late, we feel like the better value here is going to be siding with the road team, going with Michigan State to go on to win and cover this 3.5-point spread. If you agree, give the video a thumbs up. Disagree, give it a thumbs down. And again, you can check out all of our college basketball picks over at stumpthespread.com, which is linked at the top of the video description.